This is Oft Off Topic, a show where two men with the attention spans of a squirrel try and fail to stay on topic with the day's subject. Where will their oral meanderings take us? Well, stick around and listen, because today's Oft Off Topic is... the second half of our ALF talk. Last week we talked about the origins of the ALF character and his creator Paul Fusco, whose name I pronounced multiple ways over this series. Variety is the spice of life, I suppose. This episode we continue talking about the merchandising juggernaut that ALF was, and what happened to the character after the show's cancellation. 1987, ALF the Animated Series airs on Saturday mornings on NBC, and I kind of remember the theme song of that show actually. It's made by Deke and Saban Productions. It was a prequel series dealing with Gordon's time on Melmac before it blew up. Fun fact, they never call him ALF on this show because he's not an alien life form. They just call him Gordon. Makes sense.
What a I don't know. An alien named Gordon. I'm nitpicking, but it's just...
Yeah. Lack of imagination on your part, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I assume the ALF's planet is just like fucking Howard's planet.
Yeah, well, and also, too, that was literally just a joke on the show. Why would an alien have an old Jewish man's name? Ha, ha, ha. It's hilarious. I know it's lost on you, but yeah, that was...
It is lost on me.
It's humor. Yeah, it is, but yeah. It's Kemp. It's the tragically ludicrous, or the ludicrously tragic. After ALF the Animated Series came ALF Tales, where ALF recreated famous tales, like Jack and the Beanstalk and such. I remember both of those cartoons, and I actually liked them better in the show because, again, they could do some more stuff on there. It's more inventive and more imaginative.
Yeah. Cartoons will always...
Did you ever watch cartoons? I'm guessing not.
Always.
Did you? Okay.
No, I think it's cartoons, but yeah, I've actually seen one or two of those cartoons.
Okay.
But our cartoons always can be better when you have stuff like that. Again, when we were like the Howard the Duck episode, that movie should have been an animated movie because you could have done a lot more with it, and the style. I don't know. I could imagine like this album. I could barely remember it, so I'm even hesitant to say I've watched them because my memory is so foggy about it. But I do remember seeing like animated ALF bits, so like flashes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the shows actually lasted for a couple years each. Not a bad run.
No, not at all.
Yeah. 1989, ALF hosts the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. So there's that, which is something I was never that big into. I'm just not that big in parades, period.
They're boring.
And also, yeah, they really are. Especially if you're there, because then you're standing all day and it's just kind of, your feet hurt.
That's what always confused me. Yeah, let's go to the fair, go to the parade. Okay, so you stand there as they pass by, and then thank God I've never gone to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. But that would be a misery to me. You go all the way out that way to stand in one area. Yeah, the floats go by, but you're better off watching on TV because then at least you get like a decent camera view, and they're dancing to you, not to like random whoever.
Yeah, parades were one of those things that I feel like were cool 100 years ago.
Yes.
Back, when it's like, yeah, you couldn't just see everything on TV. You had to, like, wait for it to come to you somehow. So, yeah. In which case, hey, I'd stand around for a while to watch, one of 5 cars in the entire state of Maine to come puttering by, or whatever it is. So, let's see. Where were we? Oh, yeah. ALF was on an episode of Matlock as well, because that's what people who watch Matlock really want is ALF. And that's what kids want to do is watch Matlock. Yeah, ALF was on an episode of Matlock.
I don't remember that. I'm not saying you're lying. I'm just saying I don't remember that, Look.
ALF was actually literally just in like a, 1-minute scene where he was like being interviewed on TV over a murder or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just one scene where ALF, I don't think he actually interacted with Matlock, unfortunately.
I'm picturing ALF as, I just flashed at him being the defendant, and Matlock did the best to get him off.
Matlock's like, now listen here, Mr. ALF, did you eat my cat?
I might be a small country town lawyer,
but I know the sound of a cat being eaten if I've ever heard one, and that's the sound I heard come from my barn when I found you, young man.
I believe the only evidence to link my client ALF to the murder scene is the half-eaten cat, but I would like to point to you that this cat has not been eaten. In fact, if you look closely, he was chopped in half by a knife. I don't believe ALF, he has hands, can hold the knife. Can you, Mr. ALF? Please hold this murder weapon. He got fumbly trying to grab with his hands.
Right.
Please notice, he is trying for several minutes to pick up this knife.
This man is good with a knife as a nurse shark is with a scalpel.
And again, I go back to, I might be a poor country lawyer.
Yeah.
But But I think Mr. Knifehead's in the back, who's trying to keep his head down. He's more likely to kill the person.
The man wearing the cat skin cap. He's probably the man who did it.
And please notice, only half a cat skin that.
And there, we just wrote the world's greatest episode of Matlock.
That's true, we did. Yeah. That would have been an amazing episode of Matlock.
Yep. Yeah, we can always do an animated Matlock series after the fact. All right. 1990, as Alf show is winding down, he stars alongside Alvin and the Chipmunks, Garfield, Bugs Bunny, and Winnie the Pooh for Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue, which is an anti-drug cartoon by the Ronald McDonald House. And obviously that show was a huge success because we have not had a drug problem since then. Right. Good job, cartoon show. Yeah, apparently that show was actually simulcast on like all the big three networks, so there was like no escaping it at the time. While merchandise was selling well, as time went on, the show was starting to suffer. Like we were talking about, the writing for the show was pretty difficult, as Alf was kind of stuck at home doing adventures. Like, one episode, he actually became like a telemarketer. Literally, like, sitting at home just on the phone talking to people. Yeah, not exactly action-packed, exciting stuff right there. So, anyways, yeah, they couldn't really have Alf do much. They couldn't have him leave. Stories started to stagnate. And on top of the story stagnating, tempers were flaring on the set all the time. People were just getting all sorts of angry and fed up with the long shooting schedules and just everything being frustrating on there. Oh yeah, and apparently the set, I don't know if the ventilation was bad, but I guess the set was always super hot. Like noticeably hotter than it was outside and very annoying to be on.
I guess it was because of all the things they had to do for Alf.
I'm guessing it was something like that. And they probably also had like a whole lot more people on the crew too, just because they had people having to deal with Alf. And I don't know. But everybody said the set was very, very hot, and that was not good.
Yeah, I mean, you have all the bodies above and below you, and then you have all those motors and like not really ventilated machines all spitting out heat.
Yeah.
And lighting.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I'm just thinking about it being miserable.
So by the time season 4 rolled around, Alf had went from 15th in overall ratings all the way down to 39th in the ratings. And the writing was on the wall that the show was either going to end or something had to change. So basically going into the season 4, Brandon Tartikoff, the guy who greenlit the show, the president of NBC, he kind of gave Fusco a gentleman's agreement saying that, hey, okay, we'll give you a 5th season. You can, do your best to turn it around then. If you got any good ideas, do it then and we'll see what happens. And, basically their plan was on season 5. So, on season 4, how we had that cliffhanger where Alf was about to get taken away by the military?
Isn't that where you're standing in the yard, all the lights are on him? And they're
like, he's out in the woods, but yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And
I just remember him standing there, like in there.
Yeah, and then the military showed up, and then the plane or the spaceship took off. He's like, "No, don't leave me!" And then the episode ended on a really dumb joke and a laugh track. It was like a very dramatic moment. He's like, "Oh, not a sports fan among you," and then everybody laughed, and like it went fade to dark. Kind of a strange ending. Anyways, the reason we got that ending was because season 5 was going to continue with Alf at a military base. And it was basically going to be the military people running all sorts of experiments on him, and Alf subjecting the military to his patented rambunctious skylarkings. So instead of being at a home annoying a suburban family, he was going to be on a military base, annoying suburban militariites. Militariites? Militarians? Militarians. However, season 5 and that continuation of them being on a military base was not to be, as Mr. Tartikoff was actually ousted at the head spot of NBC, and his replacement had no such fondness for Alf, and it was just like, nope, we're going to end that right now. You get no 5th season. Sorry about your 2-parter ending, but this is where it's going to stay. I will say, him being on a military base did sound like it could be interesting, maybe, I guess.
Honestly, it sounds good to me. I mean, that's pretty. Yeah, it'd be. You can get rid of the whole family, so the dad can finally like get a real job, and then.
Yeah, actually, they weren't even going to have the original family on. They were going to I believe they're going to completely dip them from the series altogether.
No, that's what I was saying. The actors can finally just fuck off and do.
Oh, gotcha. I thought you meant in the show the dad could get a real job and be like.
Oh no, yeah.
I thought it was going to be like one of those dumb things where like the family just shows up on the military base, like, oh, the dad got a work job as a computer programmer here or something.
No, that's probably derogatory to the actor. Yeah. That was a real job. Maybe he might have been happy necessarily working with that. He'd work for the money, but it was a real job. I mean, but yeah, I was talking about like. they could finally get away from that house with that family. And you would think it would open up a whole treasure trove, because now you could have lab thing, you could have, I don't know. I mean, I'm not even trying to write that show, but you could introduce a whole different class of characters, and now instead of being all the same family, you have like you could almost do. I don't know, like, Are You Being Served? Forgive me for the British reference, but like just something where there's a collective gathering of people who all just kind of come together for one thing, being experimenting on Alf.
Oh, that would be kind of a funny plot point if Alf snuck in the Ralph rehearsal dummy in one of the episodes.
That would be pretty funny.
Yeah. I will say, though, our Mangala idea sounded a little bit better than the military base one. So, low ratings were only kind of half the story as why ALF got canceled. The other half? Well, the FCC regulation rollbacks that Reagan enacted finally started taking effect around this time. And one thing that changed from this is that broadcast networks were now allowed to own shows that they aired. Before this, broadcast networks could not own the shows that they aired because is monopoly concerns. But now, that was no longer the case, and NBC could own any shows that it aired, as well as any other network. And in case you're wondering why it got repealed, because cable channels weren't broadcast channels, so they were not bound to the same rules. So they could own all the shows they wanted. So basically the broadcast networks were like, hey man, we need some equal footing here, or we're going to get eaten alive by HBO and Showtime, profits-wise. So, I mean, that kind of makes sense.
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it's like, I get it, but at the same time, like, things have gotten so out of hand in terms of like, and I'm, again, not trying to call it, but like monopolies, and we're just like, it's like I said earlier with the whole Disney thing. It's like I love the idea of all my favorite characters being on one screen. Like oh my god, if there was some way we could have a Marvel DC crossover type thing in the movies, I would like die with joy. But I also recognize, like, just because that would satisfy my nerd itch, the idea of some big giant Disney movie company eating up all the media, that's real bad.
Yeah. It is. Also, one other thing that actually kind of worked out for the best about those FCC regulation rollbacks, it actually allowed for cartoons to advertise toys to kids. So if not for those rollbacks, we probably wouldn't have gotten Transformers and G.I. Joe and the such.
Oh, to He-Man.
Yeah. Because before that, like, all cartoons couldn't like sell a product or a toy necessarily. But yeah, they kind of rolled that back. So it's like, hey, game on, kids! Here, buy this stuff.
And that's a hard line to walk, because I think that there should be an issue of them marketing toys based on TV shows they've made, but I do also understand the concern of like, oh, we don't want them directly making shows for the pure reason of selling toys to kids.
Yeah,
but also, so what?
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of skewed too because we like those shows and that generation of stuff. So
very true.
Yeah,
I mean, right. So,
ALF is now canceled. What show replaces ALF in his time slot? Another fish out of water story starring that young up-and-coming rapper Will Smith. That show is The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. See, ALF's cancellation led to Chris Rock getting slapped on stage at the 2022 Academy Awards, one of 2022's most talked about moments.
It's a straight line.
It is. Hey, man. Explain to me how ALF canceling did not lead to that.
I mean, there really is no way to argue that. Like, if you...
there is not.
Just logically, I mean, Will Smith was a rapper, but that first time he actually made, like, real... Like, he was a star, was on that show. I mean, and then he ran stuff there. So, yeah, if Will Smith had not done Fresh Prince of Bel-Air...
Chris Rock would not gotten slapped by him. Yes. So, another reason for ALF's waning popularity was Fusco's insistence that everyone treat ALF like a living human being. Or a living alien being, I guess would be. This limited the appearances that he would do, because if you didn't agree ahead of time to treat ALF like he's real, he ain't appearing on your show. And not everyone was willing to meet those demands. SNL, for one, wanted ALF on the show, but they didn't want to meet those stipulations by Fusco, so they're just like, nope, can't promise that we will treat ALF like a human being, so we're not going to have you on there. Which, I guess, SNL was really excited to do that, too, so... Also, Jim Henson was a big fan of ALF and even wanted to do a Muppets ALF crossover, but Fusco declined that because he felt that people would confuse ALF for being a Muppet, and then if they thought he was a Muppet, they wouldn't think he was a real alien. So,
God damn it.
Yep. So we did not get, because Jim Henson was like, "Hey, bring Alf over. We'd have some good things." Just think, we could have had a Pigs in Space Alf crossover. Think of how cool that could have been.
I mean, did no one pull him aside? Like, dude, no one thinks Alf's real. No one does. You've got to stop this. Like, you're killing the franchise.
Yeah, right. Probably somebody did, and he was just like, "F you. I'll do what I want. I'm Paul Fusco. I control Alf. Alf is mine." But yeah, I mean, that it's incredibly stupid. I mean, I could kind of see it a little bit if he was afraid of just the fact that people would think it's a Jim Henson product, but no, it was mainly the fact that if they thought he was a Jim Henson product, then they thought he wouldn't be real.
I guess. I mean, again, with the stipulations that you have to treat him as real, I get it. It's dumb, but I get it.
Yeah, it is dumb. So very, very dumb. But yeah, we got cheated out of an Alf and Muppets crossover. So sad. I mean, I guess technically it could still happen, but the iron's not exactly hot for striking at this time, so.
Yeah.
So the cast and crew are quite excited for the show to be ending, as avoiding falling to your death while playing second fiddle to a puppet tends to wear down on one's psyche over a few years.
I can imagine. Again, the dad, too, is just like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah, and Sheen, the mom, who played the mom in the thing, openly talks about how miserable everybody was on the set due to the long hours and the set being hot and everybody just being cranky. The daughter, Andrea Elson, because she started out the show as, kind of a little kid and started, morphing into an adult, so to speak, as the show went on. She didn't like the way she looked and kind of wanted to stay as a little kid, so she developed bulimia that lasted long after the show had been canceled. So
that sucks for her.
Yeah, that sucks for her. She eventually did get better, so that's good. But the one that was most hit hard by Alf was Max Wright, who played the dad, Willie Tanner. On the last day of shooting, Max famously did not say one word to anyone. As soon as the director called cut, Max just walked over to the dressing room, grabbed all his stuff, and just left the set without even saying a word. He could not get out of that studio fast enough.
That's a dick move.
Yep, not even one goodbye, nothing.
He wasn't the only one. He wasn't the only one there suffering. I'm sure I went to Juilliard or whatever. I mean, I get it. Like, you want to get out of there, but you weren't the only one suffering there. And so you say goodbyes. You say your goodbyes. And he probably cost himself future work. I'm not saying he definitely did, but there's a chance he cost himself future work, because those people aren't going to remember all the time they worked with you. What they're going to remember is the last thing they dealt with you with. And the last thing they dealt with you with, you just fucking off at the very end, last thing, not saying a word to anybody, just rolling. Yeah, that's what they're going to remember at the end of the day.
My guess is Max probably didn't want to work with anybody related to that show ever again and did not care.
Nope. I mean, then he got what he got. At the very end of the day, like, his career kind of stopped because he decided that he was like, no, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. Max did not like this because, as we talked about earlier, Max was a seasoned vet in the acting world, and he didn't like the fact that Alf wasn't an actor who paid his dues and yet was the only one who got all the good lines.
Oh,
yeah.
I love it.
Basically, Fusco wanted to make yeah. I'm glad you caught that. That was like exactly where I was going with that.
That was exactly. Damn. Mr. T and Alf, two assholes who didn't pay their dues.
Yeah, exactly. That everybody's mad at. The more serious people were mad at. I get a feeling I'm going to get more use out of that line as we do more podcasts, because that seems to be kind of a running theme in Hollywood.
I'm steadily going to add to it. Damn you, Mr. T. Alf.
Damn you, Mr. T. Alf.
I mean, and again, just like Mr. T, it's like, well, first of all, he's a fucking puppet. That's not Mr. T. But like Mr. T, like he's a flash in the pan. Like, you as an actor who put your dues in, you're gonna be fine at the end of the day. You're gonna move on and get other roles and whatever. Mr. T, he fulfilled a certain role for a certain time. He's saying certain things, and let him have it. Alf, he doesn't really fucking exist, but yeah, even if he did, like, there aren't going to be a lot of roles. Again, let's pretend he's real. He's a real actor. He's a real actor. That's Alf. He goes to openings. He at fancy restaurants. Got the best cats, and like, where else is he going to go? I mean, he's not going to be in any of the big movies coming up.
He's not going to be playing Hamlet, as far as we know.
Right. I was trying to go somewhere, like, for some reason, nothing was popping in my head. But yeah, like, some of these real serious roles, just, he's not going to be there. Like, when they're looking for someone to fill a role like Goodfellas, like, we're going to have this guy, and Alf.
Or his role in Schindler's List, like we talked about earlier.
Yes, thank you. That's a great callback. Never forget his role in Schindler's List.
Yep. When Alf was at the Nuremberg trials, seeing Joseph Mengele for the first time in a decade eye to eye.
I love how
Mr. Mengele, I remember what you did to me in that lab. It was not pleasant.
I love how we automatically stuck him on the Nazi side. They're like, without question, neither one of us even considered the idea he would be on the other side. He was straight. Guard Auschwitz.
Yep. Yeah. He was the one that thought up concentration camps because he remembers what they did to those salesman dinosaurs back on Melmac when they first showed up. Yep, the entire Holocaust was a blueprint that was copied from the salesman dinosaur massacre on Melmac 23,000 years ago.
They're going to finally discover the secret tapes of 20 hours of interviews between Alf and Hitler as he describes how to for the perfect solution to his Jewish question.
Yeah, Alf's just going off on the thing, and Hitler's you hear him back around being like, Mr. Alf, will you stop petting my cat so feverishly? You seem to be licking your lips while you are petting him. I do not
that going, oh, I never considered that being a plausible solution to our issue.
Yeah. It's not just a solution, it's a final solution.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, man, I see now.
All the Nazis mumbling, such great ideas coming from this Alf guy.
Yeah, this sounds very marketable, too. Alf's just like, hey, you guys got to dress nicer, too. Ha! Get yourself some knee-high boots and do this goose-stepping thing.
Black, shiny leather, and bright red armband.
Yes. So now that we know, we've come up with the fact that Alf helped the Nazi regime into power. I mean, honestly, that wouldn't surprise me a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, back to the show. Fusco basically wanted to make sure that nobody would upstage his little creation, Alf. So that is why Alf had all the jokes and had all the funny parts and all the heartfelt parts too. Pretty much everybody in that show was literally just there to set up Alf for Alf's big moments. And if you watch the show now with that in mind, it's pretty painfully obvious that everybody's just... Pretty much Max's whole job was go out there and look frustrated and befuddled until Alf says something funny. And then we'll just do that for 20 hours, a week. So, yeah, I can see how, it'd wear thin pretty quick. Literally, Max's whole job, it felt like, was just him, being like, Alf, and that's pretty much it.
Damn you, Alf.
Yeah, damn you, Alf. Whether this show started the problem or just exacerbated it, Max began rampant cocaine use while working on the set of Alf. In fact, one time while he was really high on coke, Max found the Alf puppet just sitting there unattended and proceeded to unleash his rage upon it and attacked the puppet.
Furiously masturbated all over it.
Get this out of your hair, you son of a bitch. Max's rage was enough that he actually damaged the puppet before security guards actually managed to pull him off. Took a few security guards, I guess. When Max was on the Norm Macdonald show, he would actually tell this story to Artie Lang, and with pride, I guess, be like, hey, one day, Artie, you like coke. Guess what I did on coke one day? I attacked Alf. So after, how did things go for Max and his cocaine addiction after Alf? Not really that great. See, in 2001, the National Enquirer tabloid published pictures from a homemade video they purchased showing TV dad and family man Max Wright smoking crack cocaine out of a homemade pipe while he and his gay lover have sex with a homeless man. According to Max's gay lover, this was something they did quite often. The duo would head out twice a week and pay a random homeless man $100 to go to a hotel room with them and have a good old crack-fueled suck and fuck.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. If you're a homeless gay crackhead, that's got to be like Christmas coming early. A couple of dudes show up and like, hey, you want $100 and head back to a hotel room?
You imagine later on that guy's walking the streets. He looks in some TV store, sees a bunch of TVs in the front window, and they're playing Alf. He's like, hey, I blew that guy.
Or even worse, I mean, just during the actual act, mid-stroke or something, you look in his eyes, like, hey, you're the dad from Alf. Right on, man. That's got to make things awkward during the orgy.
Right.
So I pointed out the fact he was on the Alf show and he just went limp right there on the spot. Weirdest thing ever.
Or he would just slide in Alf lines. Just kept on sliding in until finally he noticed. Next day, homeless man murdered in a hotel. No one else happened.
Just on the wall written in blood and semen. It's just no more Alf. So,
Sorry, this hit me when you just said.
no, uh, so that controversy kind of damaged his career a little bit. Then, shortly after that, in 2003, he was arrested for drunk driving after driving his 1985 Volvo off the road and plowing into some mailboxes. And yeah, that was kind of the last controversy we heard about him, because his later years he wound up dying of cancer at the age of 75. However, at the end of his life, he finally lightened up about ALF. He still kind of hated the experience on it, but he was like, well, you know, it did bring people joy, so I guess I gotta be proud of that in a way. A lot of people liked it. I hated it, but that's not the point. It's the viewers. So he kind of lightened up a little bit. Still hated ALF, still hated the show, but realized, wasn't all bad.
Well, I hope so. I mean, it would really. I mean, it would be really sad for him if he just hung on to it. Like his final words as he's laying there with his loved ones around him. He's
Tell ALF to go fuck himself.
Yeah, damn you, ALF! Like he's still acting like he's still in character, like acting as if ALF was a real thing. Like
he's just like yelling lines at one of the ALF dolls across the room, acting like it's real. Back to ALF. After the show was canceled, there was a dark ages for ALF where we didn't see much of him at all. Probably his most famous scene was when he came back in 1995 and The Simpsons made a Pog joke about him. Remember ALF, Bart? He's back in Pog form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Yes.
Yeah. Possibly because of this one joke, and you can't prove me wrong on this, ABC comes to Fusco and says, hey, Fusco, you know how you still own the rights to ALF smartly? Well, you want to come over here and shoot a finale for yourself finally? Complete that two-parter? And Fusco said, faux shizzle I do, who I assume he was big into Snoop Dogg at the time and talking like him, so hence the faux shizzle. So, Fusco grabbed him and OG ALF writer Tom Pratchett and got back together, starting writing a finale. And what we wound up getting was 1996 Project ALF, starring Martin Sheen, Ray Walston, and Miguel Ferrer. So, what we get is that movie with ALF running around on a military base, and overall the thing is actually a very boring movie. I remember watching and being very disappointed with it. Did you see the movie?
Which one was that?
Project ALF, the movie that came out on ABC in 1996. The second half of the two-parter.
I don't think so.
Yeah, well, there you go.
You hear surprise my voice. You'd think it sounds familiar, but I don't think I actually watched it.
Yep, didn't have any of the original cast in it. It was mainly Martin Sheen trying to kill ALF. Because Martin Sheen's mom was kidnapped by aliens, so he thinks ALF's people did it, and he's trying to get revenge on ALF. Before we leave the 90s, Paul Fusco did have one other project that came to fruition. 1991, he created Space Cats, a hybrid cartoon/puppet show starring Townsend Coleman and Rob Paulson, two actors who auditioned for Howard the Duck. The Space Cats came from the planet called Triglyceride 7, ruled by a being named Dork, which was short for Disembodied Omnipotent Ruler of Cats, which was played by Charles Nelson Riley, famous character actor from back in the day. Basically, in between cartoon spots, they would have a live-action /puppet setup for the show. That's where Charles Nelson Riley popped in. The show did not last very long. I honestly don't even remember it, to be honest.
Right, because I got diabetes.
Yep.
Triglycerides.
Oh, ha, yeah.
Blood sugar, yay.
Yay. Somebody's been seeing test strip infomercials, haven't you?
Well, no, I remember back before I started taking like medication for my cholesterol, I went in to get my blood drawn, and the guy's like, "We can't give your cholesterol like levels. The reason why is your triglycerides are so high, we can't see anything else."
Oh, yeah, you're telling me about that once you maxed out the machine.
Yeah, the machine only goes to 600, and you went above that. I'm like,
yeah.
He goes, your blood's basically like a smoothie. I'm like, okay, well, I should probably do something about that.
So, well, I mean, if you got so many triglycerides, sell off the excess ones and make some money.
You think?
Yeah, you think. I mean, if you got, isn't that how capitalism works? You got an excess of something, sell it to somebody who needs it.
Yay.
Early in the 2000s, ALF would make a little bit of a comeback to shill 10-10-220. Dial that before your area code and save money. That's another thing I kind of forgot existed. Remember that? The battle of the 10-10-220s and stuff like that?
No.
Really? Oh, basically
10,
back in the day when you had like, when you had landlines, before you dialed a long distance call, there was these companies you could call first and they would like hook you up with cheaper rates. So like if you wanted to call somebody's phone number, you first had to dial 10-10-220, then the area code, then the phone number, and then it would like give you, in theory, cheaper rates at a certain time of the day. There was a whole lot of
There
companies
is.
that actually did this in the early 2000s. But yeah, that's exactly why they put Alf in those commercials, because, people remembered him. He is a comforting, familiar face. And also, by the year 2000, he's only like 10 years past his prime, so, yeah.
Yeah, and plus it's not because he's a recognizable face, but not real. It's not like there's any scandals. Like, back when Alf like did cocaine and killed a hooker, just
Nope, that was just his fictitious dad that did that.
right.
2002, Alf is part of NBC's 75th anniversary special. He's just there for like literally one shot where he's sitting, I think it's next to like one of the presidents of NBC, and he like has one line, and that's pretty much it. Even though he's just there for that one shot, producer Tina Fey said that setting up that shot was by far the biggest pain in the butt of the entire thing.
Yep. I believe, especially something like that, it'd be quick and easy. Like, okay, we're just doing this. Hey, let's throw a funny gag in here. Then, da-dum, here we are.
Yeah, apparently from what I was reading, like, as soon as that scene was done, literally they cut out there and it's the dude with Alf sitting next to it. Alf says his one line, and I guess the instant they cut away, Alf is done there. They, like, literally grab the pup and they just leave because they don't need Alf the rest of the show. They're just like, do your one line, get out.
Yep.
And they did.
I'm sure they said it nicer than that. Or maybe they didn't. Maybe they're like,
I mean,
do
it
your
is
one
Hollywood.
line.
They are known for their kind of dickishness. I mean,
Yeah. Do your one line, then fuck off.
say it and get out. It's like Krusty the Clown kind of thing. 2004, Alf gets a show on TV Land called Alf's Great Talk Show. Only 7 episodes were made, and some say it is the second worst TV talk show of all time, right behind the Chevy Chase show. I remember the Chevy Chase show. I actually managed to watch one episode of it too because people always talk about how horrible it was, and it is horrible. It is god-awful.
I briefly remember seeing it. I don't remember much of it, but I
Chevy
do
Chase
remember.
is a bad interviewer, just so you know.
I barely remember it. I just
Yeah.
remember that he was on there, and I remember kind of being upset when they canceled it because it was so short. But again, I was coming from a place of I haven't seen any of it, and so just like, oh, that sucks. It was only on there for a little bit.
2007, Alf was on the O'Reilly Factory. Try that again. 2007, Alf was on the O'Reilly Factor's TV Icon of the Week. So if you ever want to see Bill O'Reilly interview Alf, there's your opportunity right there.
I'll never watch Bill O'Reilly anything, so
Well, if you want to watch Bill O'Reilly something, you can watch it with Alf.
never,
Never.
never. I will be goddamn before I watch something else.
I will not give that man the time of day in my brain.
No, I mean I don't know. Maybe I'll watch a clip because Alf's in it, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's not that great. It's pretty short.
Yeah, I
A lot of
mean,
it-
because how long are you gonna? Again, along with that, we just talk about how much of a pain in the ass to do it. I can't imagine them like, oh, we're gonna have this gag. Oh wow, this is a lot of work. Never mind.
So, 2010 rolls around, and deleted scenes from the original Alf series emerge online. And then in them, you get to see Fusco performing as Alf, pretend to have Tourette syndrome, and then say the N-word repeatedly over and over again. Alf then tells actress Andrea Wilson, the daughter of the show, to climb on top of him and straddle him. This can be found on YouTube with very little effort. So, that was where we were talking about the racist thing earlier.
Wait, what was this?
2010, deleted scenes from the original Alf series emerge online. Apparently, I
Okay,
guess you could actually find them on the DVDs, I guess it was. Like the very
found-
early DVDs.
I did see some outtakes where he was like definitely making some off-color like sexist stuff to the wife. But yeah, I didn't know that part. Like the N-word
No, the
stuff.
one I saw was you saying it to the daughter, telling her to straddle him.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I'm sure there was a bunch of outtakes, and I saw some, but not those.
Yeah, you would remember this one because he says the N-word a lot in it. Well,
Oh
maybe
yeah, I
like
would
4
definitely
times.
remember that.
Yeah.
I would
there-
absolutely remember that.
Yeah, and the Tourette's thing too. But there's kind of an explanation for this, at least for the Tourette's part. So
Okay.
around this
Let's hear
time,
it.
around this time, there's an episode of L.A. Law that had a person who had Tourette's syndrome being on the stand, and he had a Tourette's fit, and then proceeded to call the black lawyer the N-word repeatedly as kind of a shocking moment in L.A. Law. And basically, Alf was kind of mocking that scene or recreating it. However, I couldn't find any good explanation why Alf was asking the daughter to straddle him.
Yeah, so I'll give you. Okay, I'm not gonna give a full pass. It's still fucked up because one was a drama, the other one they make fun of it. But you know what? Okay, okay. I'll lie. Okay, it's still it's off color. But yeah, the straddling thing. You're right. But if he's making a direct reference to something that happened on a show that was happening around that time,
Yeah, actually, I'll
Okay.
send it to you real quick and you can watch it. It's only like 30 seconds or something. They actually asked one of ALF's producers about this video when it's emerged online, and basically the producer kind of went on a rant of being like, people are too sensitive nowadays. Get off your high horse. Deal with it. So, yeah, there you go. ALF, racist, unlikely. Pervert, probably.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Unlikely, because again, if he's directly referencing something that happened on another show that happened around that same time, okay, it's off color. It probably is it cool, maybe not, but it's not. He wasn't necessarily being racist.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either.
And again,
bad taste maybe, but also it is also the 80s.
It was that. Yeah, I was just about to say that. In the end, it doesn't. It's, I don't know. Like,
Probably,
I don't want to sit here and go.
Stagehands were probably saying worse things all the time on that set.
Absolutely.
2012, Fusco announces he's shopping an ALF movie to studios. Later that year, Sony announces they have purchased the rights to make a live-action CGI ALF hybrid movie. Nothing has been heard about that since then. I presume it's stuck in development hell. 2018, Warner Brothers TV announces an ALF reboot, with ALF being back on Earth with an all-new family. Later that year, that project was announced dead.
Because they found the Edward thing.
Yeah. Possibly. We gotta let this die down for a moment. 2020, the ALF show is upgraded from dead to in development on HBO Max. Still haven't actually heard anything about it, though, so maybe HBO Max will eventually have a ALF series. 2022, an all ALF all the time streaming channel appears on Amazon Freevee. It is released as part of a package of channels that are dedicated to just showing individual shows like Kids in the Hall, Deal or No Deal, Price is Right, Divorce Court, and Unsolved Mysteries. So yeah, there's a few channels that just show all those shows on loops. And just that show too, it's literally just that one show on a loop around the clock.
Oh, dude, that would be. I mean, I don't know if you need some in the background, but that's a lot.
It seems like something that you would torture somebody with. You just strap them to a chair and you just put on Divorce Court for 24 hours a day and you just force them to watch it.
Want to break the Geneva Convention?
Yeah, right.
Like that's the number one watch that we keep on playing this, but the only consistent watcher is Guantanamo Bay. I don't.
That's where all the streaming is going to.
Yeah, it's like most of our viewers are there.
Yeah, you can watch the ALF channel on Sling TV if you have it. So there you go, Sling TV user. You can watch ALF 24 hours a day if you would like.
I don't believe I don't, because we don't have cable. So
yeah, Sling TV is like internet streaming stuff.
Oh well, then yeah, I don't have it.
2023, Ryan Reynolds, of all people, says he's teaming up with Paul Fusco and bringing ALF back into the spotlight for his Maximum Effort channel. Apparently, Ryan Reynolds has his own channel and production company called Maximum Effort. Did not know that until this. So
I mean, it makes sense. That's kind of his thing. Maximum Effort. That's he says that in Deadpool, and it's kind of like his.
Yeah, okay. That saying is his thing, not running movie studios. Okay.
No. Well, but I'm also he's done. Let's see, Ryan Reynolds. He owns a vodka. Is it a vodka?
It's a gin, Aviator.
It's a gin. Okay, he has a gin, and then he owns a soccer team or a football team. I could see him doing that too. He just seems to be kind of like doing.
He's got to do something with all that money he has.
Right, good on him. If he's wanting to invest his time and energy and money into it, okay, cool, whatever. I'm not gonna fault him for that.
This Ryan Reynolds ALF project sounds exciting, but it actually just turned out to be a bunch of commercials of ALF selling stuff like Mint Mobile, Hims, and other such things. Yes, Ryan Reynolds pulled ALF from retirement just to have him sell cheap cell phone plans and boner pills to people. On that note, I learned that Ryan Reynolds is also planning on bringing back Biker Mice from Mars sometimes in the future. So there you go on that. We might get Biker Mice from Mars.
I've heard of it. I never watched it.
I don't think I ever really watched it either. It's just one of those shows that's kind of generic, like Cowboys of Moo Mesa and the such. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles knockoffs. Anthropomorphic fighting critters sort of shows.
Right.
Anyways, that's where we stand now. Ryan Reynolds has ALF chained up in a studio basement, forcing him to sell products, and who really knows what the future holds for ALF if he escapes that situation? Gonna have to just wait and see, I guess. So, Nate, did you learn anything about ALF?
Actually, I learned to consider him out, thinking about Mouth. I mean, I forgot a lot about him. I guess I remember hearing some stuff about how the dad hated it. I just didn't realize how much. And
with a fervent passion, he hated it.
Yes, and I definitely didn't know about the N-word thing. I mean, but overall, yeah. I mean, it honestly kind of fleshed out. I mean, some of the stuff I knew, some of the stuff I knew but forgot. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely I learned a lot about ALF today. Yay, ALF!
Yay! Learning about ALF, always good times. So now you know the story of ALF, and now we're all done here, I suppose.
I guess.
Yeah, I suppose. Next week we're going to do the Great Antonio, the Strongman. That should be interesting and fun.
Yeah, who I've never heard of outside of you.
Yeah, neither have I outside of me. So there you go. All you listening, you have yourself a wonderful day, and this has been Oft Off Topic. Talk to you later.
Bye.
This is where the ending jingle goes. This is where the ending jingle goes. I don't know if we need one. I don't know if we'll get one. But if we do, then here is where it goes.